want to talk to you today about 3 reasons why you might be having a difficult time retaining patients in your dietitian practice. And we'll also talk about some of the misconceptions that people are often trying to adjust in their practices to retain clients that actually have nothing to do with what the problem actually is. My name is Shena, and I'm a registered dietitian that has been operating my dietitian practice for the past decade. And if you're serious about getting started with a private practice, definitely click that subscribe button and hit the alert so you don't miss any new episodes. Okay, so let's first talk about what your problem is not when it comes to retaining patients in your practice. So the problem is not that you're charging too much for your services. This is a really common misconception. And we often find ourselves trying to lower our prices, devalue our services, which actually usually doesn't result in an increase in patients coming in the door and retaining clients. And the reason why is because we often find ourselves just kind of competing to be the lowest price provider. And we honestly, guys, just don't want to be in that business. And it also doesn't convince our patient that we are the better solution for their transformation. So let's get rid of the price factor altogether. That's not saying that your prices might not need to be adjusted, or you might not need to be reviewing where you're getting those patients for those prices, but that's a whole nother story altogether. So it is not your prices. It is not that you need more education. You are perfectly qualified to serve your patients. And in fact, you only need about a 10% edge or more knowledge than your patient to create a complete transformation. Too often we're saying we need this additional certification or we need this additional degree in order to better serve our patients. In fact, we're going to talk about how that can actually be one of the reasons why we might be repelling patients, is that we're actually providing them with too much information. So we don't need more degrees. We are perfectly qualified to serve our patients. That is not what is happening when we are maybe having a difficult time getting patients or retaining those patients. We also do not need more services. When we are having a hard time getting or retaining patients, we often think it's because we need to offer them more. We need to give them more. This is also inaccurate, and it is one of the reasons maybe why you are having a difficult time retaining patients. So let's talk about the first reason why you might be having a difficult time retaining the patient. So the first reason is respondent burden. This means is how much work does the patient actually feel like they need to be doing in order to be successful in your coaching program? And this is something I can see start as early as the sign-up process for your programs. So let's think about this for a moment. What barriers to entry that the patient actually needs to jump through in order to see you as the dietitian? Are you requiring them to fill out 100 forms before they can even see you in a session? Oftentimes, especially depending on our client population, this can repel a patient before they even walk in the door. Dietitians saying, help, I am not getting clients to fill out the paperwork before their appointment, and I feel like I shouldn't see this patient because if they can't even do that, then they're probably not going to be a good patient. It's actually quite the opposite, you guys. Ask yourself, why in the heck do we need a patient to fill out 10 forms before they come into our office? Legally, there are very few things that your patient actually needs to fill out before they walk in the door. So some things that they do need to fill out are things like HIPAA, probably a credit card on file because you want to get money in case their insurance doesn't pay, etc. And probably a signature on file to bill a insurance company. I also include a release of information. That's honestly, guys, that's about it. They assign the policies, the HIPAA, the signature on file, and if they want, they can fill out a release of info. I keep it very short and simple. Why are we requiring all of these documents just for the patient to walk in the door? So if you're doing that, you're automatically probably going to have a difficult time getting patients through the door, and you're probably going to lose patients that would otherwise be great because they're filling out a million forms before they even walk into the session. They might have a difficult time with technology, etc. So really think to yourself, what is the bare minimum just to get that patient into the door that I need as a dietitian to properly serve them? A lot of times we get in this common misconception, oh, I need the labs before they walk in the door, or I need their entire medical history. But maybe ask yourself, why can't we ask that in the first session? So look at your barriers to entry. After we get through the barriers to entry, what are the barriers to working with you? So I often see issues come up where a provider is wanting to give a patient all of the things, and they're just overloading this patient on the first session with, okay, you need to be tracking your food, here's your meal plan, try to meet that every day, make sure we're watching our macros, etc. And the patient gets in there, they're excited, they're like, yeah, I'm getting all these things, and then they get home and they realize that they can't accomplish any of it. And so we've just provided them with this plethora of information that leaves them feeling like they're failing. And then we try to maybe nurture them in the second session, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to do it this week. And really they're just feeling guilty because they cannot meet the demands of all of the things that you've given them. So keep things very, very simple. Keep goals as simple as humanly possible. If you're even setting goals, that's a whole other thing in itself. But like those SMART goals where there's 15 steps to meet the goal, really think about those. Like really think about what is it exactly that my patient needs to do in the simplest way that they can possibly do it to move them one step closer towards their goal. We do not need to fix all of their problems in one day. We cannot fix all of their problems in one day. So when we overload our patients with tons of to-do tasks, tons of information that they need to look through and handouts, etc., we have a really good chance that that patient is just going to feel very overwhelmed and might discontinue with that program. So remember, less is more. We do want to be giving our patients something, whether it's that information or a very short and succinct handout, but we don't want them to be overwhelmed, and we don't want to be giving them an entire nutrition course in the session that we're providing. So the more work that the patient has to do, the less likely that patient is going to be to come back, to be perfectly honest. So really keep it simple and keep it manageable and achievable for that patient. The second reason why you might be having a difficult time retaining clients is you're not being authentic. Whoever you are is whoever you are, guys. And I see so many people taking all these courses on how to do counseling and motivational interviewing and all these things. And while all these tools are great modalities, they are just tools. But where we might see ourselves getting stuck is we're watching a dietitian online, or we're looking at these courses where it's like, this is how you should interact with a patient. And we're taking our personality entirely out of it. Clients can smell that from a mile away, you guys. This predictor that a patient is going to come back is that honestly, they connect with you on a deep, intimate level. And so if you're trying to be this other dietitian over here that has really funny jokes, or maybe is super empathetic, or whatever it might be, and you're changing your personality to try to fit this mold of the provider that you think needs to be in session, you're probably going to lose some clients. So there is a person out there for everyone. You might be an introvert, you might be an extrovert, you might like to make jokes, you might be somebody that is more serious. And there is patients out there that want to see you, but they want to see you authentically. They don't want to see you in I'm a trained dietitian mode in this model. Just show up, be authentic, make a friend, and then throw some nutrition in there. Honestly, that is the best way to retain clients. You are really selling you when you're doing one-to-one services. So just remember that to bring you and all of you to the table when you're doing interventions, because these people are telling you some of their deepest, darkest secrets, fears, anxieties often. And if we are not bringing our full authentic self to the table, they might be experiencing a lot of vulnerability fatigue, a lot of ambiguity, and they're probably not going to want to continue with those sessions. So whatever you are, no matter what that personality is, bring that to the table. Do not try to adapt your personality to fit the personality of the person walking into the room. Honestly, you cannot repel the right people and you cannot attract the wrong people, but you can keep people in ambiguity mode for a few sessions. And we really just honestly probably don't want to waste our time or those people's time if they are not a good fit for us and we are not a good fit for them. The third reason why you might be having a difficult time retaining patients is you're trying to convince them, you're being in the convincing business, I call it, or sell them on your next service. Show them where your value is. Bring yourself authentically. Show them how you're going to create that transformation in that very first session. And then create a mutual agreement on how they're going to show up, how frequently they're going to come back to sessions, and the anticipation of how long it's going to take. But do not sell them. Do not say, if you buy this package, you're going to get X, Y, and Z. You're going to get this much time with me, etc. They can read all of that on your website. They probably don't need to bring that to session. And on top of that, keep all of your offers very simple. If you have 15 different offers to offer a patient, likelihood is they're just going to feel overwhelmed. They're not going to know what they need. And they might even feel like your services that you're selling them are of less value if it's not in the same price range or something along those lines as a different product on your page, and that they might not get the same transformation. So be very careful about how many services you offer, and then also how you are engaging that person in the opportunity to create transformation with you. So really think of it in that realm instead of how we're going to try to sell this product to the patient that is walking in the door. So those are just a few tips and tricks on how to keep those clients coming in the door. Treat that patient like a human being rather than another transaction. Ask about their lives, ask about their kids, get to know them as a human before you start selling that nutrition advice. So I hope that this information was helpful for you. If so, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing with a friend.